Are there any statements? I call the member for Londonderry.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise this evening to lend my support to the very brave doctors at Nepean Hospital who have actually recently put their own jobs on the line in calling for the Baird government to deliver on its $360 million election commitment for the upgrade of this hospital. As members are probably aware, Nepean Hospital is one of the most overworked emergency departments in the state of New South Wales, with 4 in 10 people waiting more than the national benchmark of 4 hours for treatment. Speaker, it was unbelievable, therefore, to me and to my community that the state government did not allocate any funding in this year's budget for the promised upgrade of Nepean Hospital. In fact, on the ABC News last week, doctors took the amazing step of speaking out against the Baird government for failing to deliver the promised upgrade to Nepean, a situation that in their own words has been described as a crisis. Speaker, these doctors don't criticise the government on party lines, they're not being partisan, they're simply in a desperate situation and are struggling under ever-growing strain on the hospital. These are the men and women who work themselves to the bone, but are not being supported by a state government that's left them high and dry, with nothing but deafening silence from the Health Minister and the member for Penrith on when this promise will be delivered. Speaker, we hear the statistics all the time. Bed shortages, waiting times, emergency department waiting lists blowing out every time the figures are released. But when doctors are prepared to go on national television to essentially beg the government for funding...
Order. Can we stop the clock, please? I just want to remind members of the public gallery that it is disorderly to take photos of proceedings of the House. You're most welcome in the public gallery, but you can't record or take photos of the proceedings. Thank you. Sorry, member for Londonderry.
No worries.
Please continue.
The doctors even being prepared to go on national television to beg the government for funding, that's a crisis that's become far too real. Doctors who spoke on ABC last week said that it can sometimes take patients up to 8 hours to see a doctor, with sometimes people waiting, over 90 of them waiting in the emergency room. And this is a hospital that treats up to 67,000 people in emergency every year. Speaker, over 52% of patients wait over 4 hours in the emergency department at the hospital. A total 835 patients waited longer than 20 hours during the July to September 2015 reporting quarter. And unfortunately, this situation is just a microcosm of what is happening right across the health system in New South Wales. We all know how much the government likes to get up in question time and harp on about new houses being approved every minute in the region of Western Sydney. But here they're actually failing to understand that it's irresponsible not to match this growth of investment in services. In a booming region like Western Sydney, we're seeing thousands of new families choosing to raise their children in this part of the world. Healthcare surely must be a priority of the state government. Hospitals like Nepean are surrounded by new release areas, like many of them in my electorate of Londonderry, that are growing every single day, with the Nepean Blue Mountains Health District set to grow by 100,000 in the next 20 years, yet the state government turns a blind eye to increasing funding for Nepean Hospital. We know that there is something very wrong with a health system when patients are stuck in ambulances, waiting outside hospital emergency departments when they are very sick, something the doctors raised in the news item last week. Whilst our doctors, our nurses and other medical staff are working long hours in very difficult circumstances, often at the expense of their own physical and mental health, they are up against the wall in the face of cruel budget cuts from both the state and the federal Liberal governments. I want to place on record my support for the Nepean Hospital doctors as they call for the Baird government to urgently fund the Stage 4 upgrade of Nepean Hospital. It will see up to 4 new operating theatres, a high dependency unit, birthing suites, a specialist cancer unit and improved renal and new cardiology and neurology services. This inaction from the government is not good enough. I call on the state government to deliver the much needed and promised upgrade, Stage 4 upgrade of Nepean Hospital in this year's state budget.